Right, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast, BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Now, I was just tuning into a segment on YouTube called The Flat Earth Conspiracy Debate, and this is one that was actually put up by Stefan Molyneux. He is someone that I can't say I'm a fan of his, solely for the fact that I'm just not very familiar with his material. I know he has a very large internet following. It's just, you get those kind of clickbait things on the side on YouTube. So, yeah, I was watching the Flat Earth Conspiracy Debate, and this is a subject that I've mentioned a few times on this channel here, and I definitely would say that I'm always wanting to hear more. Overall, he had somebody on the show, and they had kind of a balanced discussion about the pros and cons, the sort of arguments for and against, and this new mystery that we have going on now in the 21st century. Is the Earth flat? I would really have to say that I think this one really stands out to me because I just always wanted to know, like, were people actually believing this? Like, there was even like that one flat Earth video out by some guy named Vsauce. He's a YouTuber that I don't really know. I've only seen one video from him ever. It was something on the Flat Earth Society and the Flat Earth theories, and it got about 23 million views. Enormous turnout. But I was just very surprised that like he mentioned one line in there when he's like, he had one line where he was saying that he doesn't think that people genuinely believe these theories. But this guy that Stefan Molyneux was debating seemed like he was very passionate about the flat Earth conspiracy theory. He seemed like he was a genuine believer in the flat Earth theory. But let's examine a few of the arguments when it comes to the flat Earth things. First, I would say that the guy that in this debate that I was just watching, he was coming at it from sort of the more modern flat Earth theories, where it's like there is this thing called the firmament. Yeah, just like the firmament from Genesis, and there's this dome that is kind of encompassing like the entirety of our universe. Whereas in some of the older flat Earth theories, they actually said that Earth was just kind of shooting upward. We weren't like moving outward into space toward an infinite point. Earth is actually moving straight up. It's accelerating 80 times faster than normally believed. But what this guy is saying is something that is more like the more modern flat Earth theories, that just Earth is actually inside a dome. Like there's a firmament, there's this dome that we cannot get out of, and this is tied into things about religion. The person who was debating him actually said that he went from atheism to being a believer because of the flat Earth theory. I was very surprised to hear something like that, but it's like I mean, it's the first time I've ever heard anyone say something like that. That they went from atheism to believing because they think the Earth is flat. But at the same time, different things. This was the first time that I heard, though, that in the flat Earth theory, there is no concept of gravity. I mean, like, it's not actually gravity that is keeping us on the Earth. In the flat Earth theory, it's actually electromagnetism. Like, it's not a gravitational universe. It is an electromagnetic universe, and I think that that's, a very fascinating thing to explore. But, like, during the later parts of this debate that I was watching, I saw that they got into sort of a few ad hominems, like, they really wanted to explore the point of what would happen, if you were watching a ship on the horizon and there was just like, because one of the largest flat Earth arguments is if you were to watch a ship on the horizon, it will never go out of view if you have a telescope that is strong enough. But they're like, well, no matter how strong your eyes are, when you look at something with the naked eye, eventually, view, you will not be able to see a ship that is going out, like, say, for example, if we're on the beach on the Atlantic Ocean and we just keep watching that ship go toward, Europe, like we're on North America, and we just keep watching that ship going toward Europe with our naked eye, eventually that's going to go out of view and we won't be able to see it. And the Flat Earth Society says that, just if your telescope is strong enough, you will always able to see that, but just the naked eye can only see for so far. Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think that that's very convincing. In fact, all that means is just that vision is limited. I think it's much more interesting to say that let's talk about some of the things that we have from space, because this whole thing with the flat earth movement is like, what's really going on with these theories about how that there are photographs seen from space that do not show any curvature in the earth's surface? I've seen them myself. I mentioned on my last Flat Earth Society upload that I had been contacted by somebody on Facebook, and they had been some of her friends even added me. I didn't accept everyone though, because now there's a swarm of them. They all have like frames on their profiles promoting the Flat Earth Society. And what I would say is that they're all sharing this message that they're sharing photos of the Earth from outer space and videos as well, excuse me, that do not show any curvature at all. Zero. And I'm like, all right, I mean, that's a photo and that of Earth from outer space. Oh, excuse me. That does not show any curvature. I agree. Then, there. But what about the other videos that do show curvature from outer space? Because there are people out there who are challenging the flat Earth theories. There are people out there who are just like, hey, well, here are videos of curvature from outer space, whether it's from the satellites or maybe the ISS, but I really think it's from satellites because, I mean, just based on the distance. Okay, so what they were saying in this debate with Stefan Molyneux is that why do you accept that these photos are fake if they show curvature, and then you're accepting that these photos that don't show curvature are real? I mean, it's like you're only just picking and choosing. It's just right down to the whole concept of I want to believe that these ones are real because they support my theory, and I want to believe that these ones are not real because they don't support my theory. But this was one of the things that I thought was, I mean, the guy who, the short story is like, he put up that challenge and the guy just didn't have an answer for it. In this debate, though, they really got to talk about the historical things associated with the flat Earth conspiracy theories, and this is one thing that I thought that I was really just wondering like why more people wouldn't do it. I was kind of waiting for it because the whole notion of the flat Earth theory is we're being lied to. Why would somebody lie to us? Well, it has to do with brainwashing the entire population because they want to make us easier to control. Oh, excuse me, rough throat today. They want to make us easier to control. So how are they going to do that? Well, they're going to tell us that the Earth is round, like a spherical ball, because then they can promote these things that we can be destroyed by an asteroid at any minute. We can be destroyed by solar energies and radiation if it gets strong enough. All of those things. So they want to constantly instill this thought of fear and destruction and panic into the human populations so that they will be easier to control, when in reality there is a firmament that is protecting everybody from all that. There is the firmament that is, that is above the Earth, so you would never be destroyed by an asteroid. In this debate that I was listening to, they were talking about the concept of, Earth is a unique planet, like Mars is round, Mercury and Venus, those things are also round, but and the Flat Earth Society has talked about this in the past. They were, writing to Elon Musk saying Mars is proven to be round, but not all people believe that. There are people who promote the Flat Earth theories believing that, the planets like Mars and Mercury and Venus and anything outside of our local system here, meaning the sun, Earth, and the moon, aren't actually real. Like, there's just like saying there is no space. That was a meme that was being shared on Facebook. There is no outer space. It's just like, it's just this firmament. The sun is very local. And I actually learned something new as well from this debate, that the sun is only 32 miles across. It was either 32 miles or 32 kilometers. But I mean, like, the sun is only 32 miles across. It is about 3,000, what's it, 3,000 miles from the Earth. So the sun is very local and it moves circular in a circular fashion around the North Pole. And one of the things that the flat Earth theory is promoting is that if you look at your planes, the way they travel, like, you can see this when you're on an airplane and they show you your journey, they can show you that they are going up north toward the North Pole, no matter where you're going. Like if you're flying from, you know, Beijing to Los Angeles, it's going to go up toward the North Pole and back down. Or if you're flying from Washington, D.C. to London, England, it's also going to go up north and then it's going to come back down. So when you have something like that, they're saying that the reason why that happens is it's because you're actually crossing the North Pole on a flat Earth, like flat like a disc. It's flat like a pie pan. It's also the first time I've ever heard that particular argument, but once again, I would really be curious what they would say is like if you have a sort of have you had somebody who was flying from, I don't know, like just to give sort of an example, Uruguay, fly if you're going to fly from Uruguay to a place like Australia, I mean, what would that sort of trajectory be like? How would you exactly be able to present something like that to the same model? Now, when you get up now to the sort of challenges that they were discussing in this debate I was listening to, really came from just belief systems. They're saying that like the challenge is this is a belief. I mean, if you're going to say that the earth is flat and just all the scientists are lying to you because of some historical conspiracy, just because someone wants to tell you that the earth is round, just a way to dumb down the population, to make people easier to control, to promote evil into the world, to denigrate science, and to also use science for their own manipulative purposes, NASA is a bunch of liars. Everyone who is promoting this is just not telling you the truth. Then this is how you would go. At first, you're going to tell people that the earth is a spherical ball because you want to kind of plant that seed of manipulation into them. And then you want them to start thinking that the earth is just this little, the earth isn't exactly what they think they are. So you can manipulate human thought. This is the basis of the historical conspiracy theory. And they also want to, some people tie this into a more religious conspiracy, like they're trying to denigrate the word of the Judeo-Christian tradition, but I don't even really want to explain that too much because that's a very sensitive topic for a lot of people. But what I would say is that why is it so easy for everybody to accept the fact that it's so easy to accept the fact that you have one photograph that where there doesn't seem to be any curvature in the horizon, and people are like, hey, look, the earth is flat. But then if you actually can find photos and videos online where you see a very definitive curvature of the planet Earth, then you're just, the people who are supporting the flat earth theory, that is, they're like, yeah, those are fake. It's like this awesome get out of jail free card. It's like this excellent approach that can just always win. Like, you're never wrong. Either you have something that supports your belief system, supports your intellectual argument, or you have something that goes against your belief system. It's wrong. It's fake. They are liars. I mean, that's just like the ultimate get out of jail free card. You could do that with anything. And maybe we should start doing this more in our personal lives. If anybody ever challenges us, I mean, just be like, you're a liar. You're not telling the truth, no matter what evidence they throw at you, no matter how good their points are. You could say that with anything. No, you're wrong and you're a liar. I mean, like, that's the essential basis of how the flat earth conspiracy theory works. Because remember, we're talking about the real conspiracy theory here, that people wanted to dumb down the collective intelligence of humanity because they thought people would be easier to control by telling them that outer space is real. Okay, right. But when we sort of want to examine this, like, I just think that it's so fascinating that this has gained such an enormous amount of momentum. And it's also, it's really catching on, but I was just very surprised that, like, more people aren't presenting themselves the way this guy was in the debate when he's actually coming across as someone who is a genuine believer. He's not like making a YouTube video just to get clicks or anything. I mean, it's like with the way he's presenting himself is that he is a researcher of the flat earth theory, and he seems like he genuinely believes it. And he genuinely believes that if you wake people up to the fact that the earth is flat, if you wake people up to the fact that there is a flat earth that has a firmament, kind of like this dome that we live in, then you can make humanity stronger. So this is the strongest issue that we need to focus on. We need to just spread the illumination to all of humanity. The earth is not round, it is not a sphere, it is not a ball. It is just this kind of flat pie pan disk that is moving upward with electromagnetism that is holding us down. And that is the flat earth theory. And you have to tell everybody about this because it will make the collective intelligence of humanity stronger. Well, that's what we're dealing with now. But the thing that we need to examine is what we need to examine is what would be some of the other kind of contradictory points to the flat earth theory. Excuse me there. One of them would sort of be that bridges that are very long are sometimes the they calculate the sort of necessary changes in the curvature of the earth that would be necessary to put a bridge down. Like they actually do take into account the shape of the earth, that this bridge, would curve around parts of the earth. And that's like one of the things that I've never heard any of the flat earthers actually address. But moreover, I mean, it's kind of very, very difficult to think about, just in terms of probability that so like we have to remember, not all flat earthers think that outer space exists, but some did in the past, and they thought that all the planets were round, like spherical, except the Earth. And in all these hundreds of billions of galaxies, there are lots of round. Oh, so sorry, rough day, rough day. Probably should have a water glass nearby when I'm doing this next time. But the thing that all these hundreds of billions of galaxies with all these planets that we can observe with telescopes, and then we can just sort of see that they are not flat, they are indeed round. Why is it that the Earth would be a flat planet? I mean, I totally get that Earth is unique. I totally get that Earth is the only planet in our solar system that is supporting life that we know of at the current moment. But why would we have all these other planets in hundreds of billions of galaxies that are round, but then the Earth is flat like a disk? I mean, like the Earth is just this flat pie pan with this dome that is going to protect us from asteroids, that is going to protect us from meteors, that is going to protect us from the solar radiation. I mean, I just had a thought actually. The Earth has a magnetosphere, right? And the magnetosphere, and like your compass always points north, right? Magnetosphere. Is there any possibility that the firmament is a metaphor for the magnetosphere? That I don't know, but that could be something very interesting, because that kind of is the only sort of dome that we would have protecting the spherical Earth. Or perhaps you could say something that just the entire concept of the atmosphere is the dome, the firmament, the ozone layer. I mean, we have lots of things that do indeed protect the Earth, and it's also possible that this concept of the um, the firmament that we get in the sort of Genesis and the older stories is somebody looking at the sky and just asking the question, what is beyond? Well, it must be something that is, beyond nature. That's kind of a question that human civilization has been dealing with for thousands of years. But what I would really like to know is, I would really like to know why there was such a huge change in the ideology of the flat earth society, of the flat earth theory for such a long time. For example, they used to just say that outer space is totally a thing, and not all flat earthers were a believer in the firmament. They were just like, Earth is flat and it just accelerates upward into outer space. Like, mostly we describe our solar system as moving outward. I mean, like, our solar system, all of the solar system is hurling through space as we speak, actually. But what they were saying is that if Earth is just a flat disk that moves upward, actually, it's moving in a vertical fashion, and gravity was 80 times stronger than normal. But in reality, there are also, people now who just say that there is no gravity, that we have an electromagnetic universe. There's this firmament, this dome that is just preventing people from actually coming into any direct contact with outer space. We'll never be hit by a meteor. We'll never be hit by solar radiation. And that the people who are trying to control the Earth are just presenting this kind of ignorant, false message. Also, we need to recognize with the flat Earth theory, all the world governments are in cahoots. I repeat, all the world governments are working together. They are all lying to us, all of them. I mean, that's one of the big things is they must sit around the table at the United Nations and they're like, okay, first rule, you do not tell people that the Earth is flat. We need to tell them that it's round. Hey, it's for their own good. They'll be easier to control that way. But we really also need to recognize that there are also, I mean, that's just a very, very extraordinary claim. I mean, and also, when you sort of are making the statement that everyone believes that you have everybody all on the same page, what is it, 262 different nations convening at the United Nations, and they're all on the exact same page, and not one person has ever revealed this. I'm not talking about Americans, I'm not talking about Canadians, but maybe somebody from East Timor or someone from the Republic of Chad or someone from Sri Lanka didn't reveal, hey, by the way, all the people at the United Nations are lying to you. The Earth is actually flat. Well, I don't know. That's really starting to defy belief and probability, and I can't really welcome that too much. As you see, I'm a little bit skeptical about the flat Earth theories. Okay, I'm very skeptical about the flat Earth theories. I mean, I believe that Earth is indeed a ball, a sphere. But what I think this is something that is much more representative of, and they discussed this in the debate with Stefan Molyneux, is that metaphysical truths are acceptable without scientific proof. It's like, some people are just going to believe different things about the cosmos than we are. In ancient Egypt, they believed that the sun came out of the Nile in the morning and went back into the Nile in the evening. People are going to believe different metaphysical things. But once we start to question the metaphysical nature of human science, then everything just kind of blows up. The scientific method folds in on itself. I'm serious about this. I'm serious about this. In the debate, they asked, like, how do you know that Australia is real? How do you know that Australia is real? Like, and this was also mentioned in a very famous video with Matt Dillahunty. It was a prank call, but someone's asking him, like, how do you know Australia is real if you haven't really been there? Well, the simple answer is metaphysical truths are acceptable without scientific proof, because once we start asking questions like, how do we really know there's an Australia? How do we know that there is a New Zealand? Those things are irrational, and they are not supported by any form of genuine human thought. It's just irrational rambling. It's almost just like, how do we know that there isn't some type of fairy in my underpants right now that is going to, take over the world in 5 minutes, but then brainwash us and make us think we all have memories? It's like we can't just ask these sort of if questions with any degree of rationalism. Metaphysical truths are acceptable with scientific proof. I repeat that metaphysical truths are just acceptable. They're acceptable without scientific proof, and they have to for the scientific method to function. Otherwise, you could just be like, how do you know that an atom is really an atom? How do you know that a peach is really a peach? And when you sort of present it from that manner, I mean, then you won't be able to conduct any experiment. You won't be able to evaluate anything. And you see a lot of this in the Flat Earth Society in their theories, because it's like, we talked about the photos, for example. Well, here's a photo from space where the Earth appears to be real. Here's a photo from space where the Earth appears to be round and spherical. No. It's like once you begin to question just the metaphysical nature, and you do not accept the premise that metaphysical truths are acceptable without scientific proof, then the scientific method is just caving in on itself, and you can create some circular arguments. Yeah, we should say spherical arguments, but we can also say that it can really just destroy experiment because you've violated all the fundamental understandings that we had in place from the beginning. Well, thank you for listening to my little rant about the flat Earth theory. I just saw a debate online about whether or not the Earth was flat or spherical, and I thought I would do a little response. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to do a few more of these because I just like to discuss some things and comments pouring in. Excellent. Well, thank you so much to anyone who's listened, and if anyone hears this in the future, stay tuned and let's talk more.